So before we get started, I want to show you why this video is worth your time and why it's important to be talking about open code right now, because tools come and go, but momentum and ecosystem usually tells you what's going to stick. I've collected these 3 different screenshots here that really show something interesting. It really shows why open code is worth your time right now. So when we look at Claud Code on GitHub, it has around 67,000 stars. But when we look at open code, it has 105,000 stars. In this month alone, it's gotten 36,517 stars. On GitHub anyways, OpenCode is more popular than Claud Code. So I think it's safe to say that OpenCode is not just new and shiny, it's already ahead in the community adoption signals, but this screenshot here really shows the velocity that's happening. So it shows that people are switching, people are making content, building plugins, and the workflow is spreading. So why does this matter? When a tool is moving this fast, you usually get better documentation, more tutorials, more community configurations, and more I hit this bug and here's the fix post that makes your learning curve shorter. All right, now that this isn't a random weekend project, let's talk about how open code actually works so the setup makes sense. Let's start first by thinking about what open code really is. So open code is really the open source version of Claude Code. So it can do almost everything that Claude Code can do, plus it has an MIT license and is 100% open source. And on top of that, it's provider agnostic. You can use it with Claude, you can use it with OpenAI, you can use it with Google, and you can even use it with local models. This is what I think. If you want flexibility and an open tool that you can shape, open code is probably the better choice. But if you want to go the official Anthropic path and you're already standardized, then Claude Code may be the better choice for you. The most valuable point on open code is really this, that it's provider agnostic. Because when you think about what just happened, for instance, Anthropic came out with their new AI model, and then so did OpenAI. Anthropic said that this was their most powerful coding model, and then OpenAI came out with one that was actually better for coding, right? The 5.3 codex. And so it's nice to be able to try them both. To me, this is a really important point, that it's provider agnostic, so you can switch around from different ones. In this video, what I'm gonna be showing you guys is how to set up OpenCode on Windows. We're gonna install OpenCode in a Windows-friendly way with WSL. We're going to connect models and providers and understand where the credentials live. And I'm going to show you guys how you can use build mode and plan mode effectively and when to switch between them. We're also going to set up some project rules with agents.md and a quick refresher on this as well. And then we'll create some skills and commands that will work globally or per repo. Why are we going to install it on WSL? Really, because that's what OpenCode recommends for the best performance and terminal compatibility. So I'm not going to walk you guys through how to install WSL, but this is the command that you'll want to use. Just go to your terminal, type in WSL-install, and then it will work for you. And then we're going to pick it up from right here. We're going to use this command to install OpenCode, and then we'll go from there. How should we think about OpenCode? Well, OpenCode is easiest to think of as 3 layers. First, we have the agents layer. Who's doing the work? Who's driving right now? You'll mainly use the build mode and then the plan mode. The build mode is the do work mode, and the plan mode is think safely. If you're new to a code base, plan keeps you from letting an agent bulldoze the repo and just run off the rails. Now the second layer is rules. How should the agents behave in this repo? That's the agents.md. That tells the model your project conventions, structure, and do/don'ts rules. Think of this as like your onboarding notes for a new teammate. How to run tests, the folder structure, formatting rules, what not to touch, how pull requests and commits work. Without this, you'll end up repeating yourself every prompt. Now the third layer is the extensions. How we automate repeatable work. Skills are the reusable playbooks that the agents can load, and then the commands are like one-shot buttons that you can run with a /name. Whenever you're first getting started with OpenCode, you don't want to overbuild a giant skills library on day one. You just want to focus on 2 to 3 real tasks first, and then codify what you end up repeating. It's really good to just start with a well-rounded agents.md and using the agents effectively, the build agent and the plan agent. This is the setup that we're going to have. We're going to use cursor for editing, OpenCode for agent runs in a WSL environment. And now the goal is cursor is the editor, WSL is the runtime, OpenCode runs in WSL and edits the same files that cursor has open. So the biggest win here is really consistency. One copy of the repo, one set of credentials, and one toolchain. The workflow is going to be like this. We're going to open up the repo in cursor using the WSL file system integration, open a WSL terminal in that same repo folder, and then run OpenCode from there. Now, a good rule of thumb is if your IDE shows that WSL in the bottom left, then you got your setup properly working. Let's hop over to our file system and open up cursor, and I'll show you guys how to set this up. I'm going to assume that you have WSL installed at the very least. Now, whenever we open up a terminal, we're going to go to the top here, and this little arrow that's pointing down, we'll click that, and we can switch to WSL just by hitting this, the Ubuntu. And now we're in our WSL. What we're going to do is we're going to make a new folder for our project. Let's see where we're at right now. We'll go inside of coding projects. Inside of the coding projects, we're going to make a new directory, and we're going to call it Open Code Demo. We'll go ahead and change into that directory, Open Code Demo. And now we'll just go ahead and run a cursor dot. We're going to open cursor up inside of this directory. And here at the bottom, you can see it's opening up the remote and setting it up. Now we have that going, and there's nothing inside of here yet. Now we need to install OpenCode. And it really doesn't matter in which order you do this. Like, we didn't have to open up the directory before installing OpenCode. I'm just getting it set up so you could do this before. But on the opencode.ai docs, it gives us this command to run. We're going to run that. Now it's finished installing. We're going to go ahead and run OpenCode in this directory. Looks like we may need to reset our terminal. I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to open a new one. You have two options here. You could run the terminal user interface here with a separate window, which is the way that I like to do it, or inside a cursor. I'll show you why I like to have it in a separate window. If we hit Control P, it conflicts with cursor. It's a little bit harder to use there. That's why I have a separate window open for it. Now that we're inside of OpenCode, what's really nice is that they automatically include free models without us doing anything. You can see we're running on this model here, the big pickle from OpenCode Zen, and we can ask anything. We'll just say hello to make sure it's working. Even just for a simple hello though, it took 16 seconds just to hit back, hello, how can I help you? Even though OpenCode does include free models, it takes a little while. They're not the best. When we hit Control P, we can see all the different commands that are already built into OpenCode. And they're broken down by category. The suggested category for switching sessions, switching models, and they have a few here for free as well. The Minimax, the Kimi, and the GLM5, and the Big Pickle. And we can also connect popular providers here. I have the ChatGPT Plus plan. We're gonna go ahead and select that, and we're going to connect it with browser, and I'm just going to log in here. We have authorized successfully. We can go ahead and close this, and now we can choose which model that we want to use. I'm going to use the GPT 5.3 Codex because that's their most advanced model right now. But if we wanted to switch models, then we would just come back here and we can choose which model we would like to use. The next thing here is whenever we're switching between modes, we're going to use the tab button. We can see when we hit tab, it changes down here from build to plan and back and forth. Really using OpenCode effectively, or Claud Code, or any sort of AI assisted programming application, it really comes down to using both the build mode and the plan mode effectively. I'm going to break down when to use which for you. The build mode is just do the work mode. The agent gets full tool access, edits, bash for implementation. You want to use this when you're ready for code changes, and that's best for adding features, refactoring, fixing tests. A tip as well is keep your prompts specific. Make change X, run test Y, show diff. Now, the plan mode, that's the thing. Safely mode is restricted by permissions to prevent unintended changes. It defaults any risky actions to ask. It's going to ask you before it does anything, before it runs any sort of risky commands. And that's best for designing, code reviewing, debugging strategy, really just making a solid plan. The practical workflow here is you want to start in plan mode. You always want to start in plan mode, and then confirm your approach, get that super solid, make that bulletproof. And once that's bulletproof, then switch to build mode, and then you'll implement it, and then you'll switch back to plan mode for review. Now the next step for us is to initialize open code in our repo, in our directory, in our folder. And what this is going to do, whenever we run this command here, the init, that's going to generate an agents.md in our repo root. And now what is that agents.md? It's going to be custom instructions for the repo. It's going to explain the structure, the conventions, the do's, don'ts. The main point is that it helps OpenCode navigate your code base faster and safer. That's what it's all about. And here's an example of a simple agents.md template. It has the setup commands on how to set up the repo, and it has some code style instructions. A tip whenever you're doing this is you'll want to commit your agents.md so that your whole team gets consistent agent behavior. The goal is just enough structure that the agent behaves like a teammate who read the README. Now we'll run that command. We'll hit init, and that's also what's really nice about OpenCode is whenever you hit the slash, you can see all the different commands that currently exist. It's currently inspecting the repo, it's making an execution plan and going with it from there. This time it looks like it even asked me a question. Is this the correct repository path, or should I analyze a different directory? Let me see. Let's make sure that, yep, that's the right one. Say yep. And on Windows, if you wanted to type with your voice, you would just hit Windows H, and now it will start recording my voice. That's how you can implement that. If you wanted to vibe code with your voice, it's just the Windows key and H. That's the shortcut. So I see. So you see the importance of making sure that you're in the correct mode whenever you start coding. It's currently in plan mode, so that's why it keeps asking me questions and asking me to do more things. So we're going to hit Control P and we'll make a new session. And this time we'll switch out of plan mode and we'll run init. Now the agents.md file is created, and I thought this last message is really important. So I want to point that out to you. It says the repository root is currently empty, so the commands are intentionally a bootstrap matrix until real project scripts / configs are added. So that really comes back to the whole point. Agents.md is not a write it once and forget it. Agents.md is this file that's living. It's going to change as your repository changes. You can see currently all the things that it's done. It even has instructions here for if cursor or copilot rules appear later. It has build and lint commands. It has everything with the JavaScript, Python, Go, Rust. So it's really complete. Not all of this is going to be super important for your individual repo. This is a living document. You want to change it as your project changes. And if you wanted to dig deeper into the agents.md format and its purpose, you can go to agents.md online and you can see some more additional information and some good examples of some agents.mds. And you can see here how they recommend using it. Add the file, cover what matters, add extra instructions, and you can even use these nested agents.md files for sub-projects. At this point, we're pretty ready to start making some cool projects. We're ready to start using it. I'm going to ask it to just generate a basic Flask application. I'm going to say, make a basic Flask website for my plumbing company. This is our color scheme. And I found this color scheme off of colorhunt.co. And I really like this website because it's color palettes that have been curated by professional designers, and it's their favorite ones. And you can even see how many likes each one gets. So it's a cool resource to check out. It's completed the application and it's given me these commands to run it locally. We'll go ahead and run those. Let's go ahead and open that up. Now you can see here how well it's used our color scheme, and yeah, it looks really nice. And I'll show you something else too. If we make this full screen, you can see that on this right side under context, it shows us the number of tokens that we used, how much of the context window that we're taking up, and also the number of dollars spent. We can track all that here, and then we can also track LSPs. This will activate as files are read. And this is what an LSP is. It's a language server protocol. It's an open JSON RPC based standard that allows code editors to communicate with language specific intelligence tools. That's quite a mouthful, so let me break that down for you. I came across this diagram and I think it explains it really well. When we have our development tool here, it goes back and forth with the language server. You think about, you open a document, that's going to send a notification over to the language server. If you edit a document, it's going to send a notification over to the language server. And now the language server is going to analyze the changes and look for any sorts of problems and then send it back. The main point of an LSP is this: it lets any editor get smart code features. You think about autocomplete, go-to definition, references, hover docs, linting, rename refactors, without the editor needing language-specific logic. The LSP is really going to assist the agent in writing code. Now, as we build this site out, you think there's going to be a lot of repeat prompts. For instance, if we're going to add a new page, there's going to be a particular way that we may want to have that page structured. There's going to be, as we use OpenCode, there's going to be prompts that we would like to save. And that brings us to our next topic: skills and commands. You can think of skills this way, as a reusable playbook. They're not commands you run, they're knowledge modules that the agent can load when it hits a specific kind of task. So example, this will be a skill for how we write migrations, or how do we make a new endpoint? How do we make a new page? And how do we write tests in this repo? The benefit is consistently this: instead of re-explaining your team standards every time, you encode them once. Now, as you get more comfortable with using OpenCode and as your repo grows, you're naturally going to build skills. There's no point in putting a whole lot of effort from day one and coming up with all these different skills. But once you notice yourself repeating yourself, that's a signal that you may want to capture that as a skill. And there's a particular structure as well for where to put skills. If you want it to be per project, you'll put it inside of a folder, you'll call it OpenCode, and then you'll make another folder inside of that, and so forth. And then if you want it to be a global skill, you can put it inside of your .config, and you can also even add permissions for it. So the discovery behavior works like this as well. OpenCode walks up to the Git work tree and loads any matching skills, and global skills are always available in every repo. And here we see an example of one of a front, the required front matter. It needs a name and it needs a description. And then from there, you can continue with it however you'd like. And now commands are very similar, but you can think of these as workflow shortcuts. Commands are more like buttons you press, not so much as playbooks. A command is something that you explicitly run, like maybe /test or /review or /ship. And you're going to run these in the OpenCode terminal user interface. Commands are really great when you want repeatability. They reduce the amount of typing and the number of prompt mistakes. And here as well, there's a particular place that you want to put them as well, per project and globally. And here's an example of one for a /test. You give it a description, which agent you want, and a model, and then you can put in whatever sort of prompt that you like. So run the full test suite with coverage, focus on failing tests, and suggest edits. You can also add arguments and placeholders by using $$ arguments. And you can even, which you can see here actually, /component button, create a React component named button. That's where that would come in. And then for more than one argument, you would just use $$ and then a number. You'd give it a description and then write your prompt, and then you would put the $, and then the number of arguments. Now you would create a file named config.json in source with the contents of key value. And again, just to reiterate, commands are like repeatable prompts. It's do this now. Skills are how we do this here. Commands are prompts. Skills are those knowledge playbooks. And if you wanted to go deeper on any of these topics, you can just find them in the opencode.ai docs. So you can see, for instance, it breaks down the required front matter for a skill to work and the places to put the files, etc. And along with the commands as well, gives you a little bit more meat as if you want to go deeper in these. Let's go ahead and try to make our own command and skill now. I've actually put together a skill already. We'll go ahead and we're going to copy this folder with this built-in skill, and we're going to put it in our config for OpenCode. We're going to put it right there. I'll show you what that looks like as well. This command helps scaffold a new OpenCode skill or command, and the usage works like this: /scaffold skill name or /scaffold command name. You are scaffolding a new OpenCode resource. The type is 1 and the name is 2. If you look at it like this, you're going to run /scaffold, either skill, and the name is whatever you put there. And then it's going to follow these instructions for each one to help us create either a skill or a command. And we also have global skill and global command. We have that loaded in our global. We'll go ahead and try it out. After you add a new command, you're going to need to restart your OpenCode. We'll hit Control C and we'll open it up again. If we go ahead and use our command, and we'll run scaffold, and we'll make this a new command, and we're going to call this one a website, or let's say a web page. Actually, this will be a command that we run that will go ahead and make a new web page inside of our app. Now, if we look inside our directory, it's put together a web page command for us, create a web page from a prompt with clear structure and styling. So it's even bootstrapped our command for us. Let's go ahead and hit Control C to get out of it, and we'll reopen it. If we do a web page, then it runs that prompt for us. Another thing too is you can see we're on GPT 5.3 codex. But if we wanted to change our level of thinking, we can hit Control T, and now we're adjusting the level of thinking on that, but we'll keep it regular for now. It's completed a web page here, index.html, and it's included everything that it needs. Now, when we look at our context, you can see we're already at 17,000 tokens. That's not too bad. It's only 4% used, but I'll show you a command as that starts to get higher. You can just run /compact. And that's going to compact the session. That's going to summarize the session. Now we went from 4% used to 2% used and 9,000 tokens. Let's go ahead and scaffold a new skill. We'll call this skill, and we'll say that this is a copywriting skill. And we can see now that it's bootstrapped for us a copywriting skill. What I want to do though is I'm a really big fan of high focus language. So high focus language is whenever you speak to the person directly and you show them the value very clearly. Everyone has their own definitions on what high focus means to them. I have some instructions here, and I'm going to go ahead and reference those instructions. We can see that it completed it successfully and included this in its references, and it's added the document to the copywriting skill. So we can go ahead and delete this one. Let's go ahead and modify the copy on this page. Currently, we see it says plumbing done right the first time. From emergency leaks to full fixture installs, our experienced team keeps your water flowing and your home protected. Let's go ahead and use our skill. Whenever we run the /skills command, you can see because it was just added, it's not loaded. We just need to go ahead and do Control C, open code. And now if let's switch sessions actually. This is the one here. And we'll go ahead and we'll run skills. And we'll say this is the skill we want to run, and I'll say adjust the copy on the home page. Looking at the copy now after it's made the changes, it says that it's updated the copy to be more benefit led and high focus aligned, and it gives us a summary of the changes that it's made. You can see the clearer user value and next steps is a little bit more solid. That should give you a really solid introduction to OpenCode. Just to recap, this is the workflow that you'll do every time that you open up a new code base. You'll put the repo in one environment, preferably the WSL environment. Then you'll open up OpenCode in that same environment. You'll connect your model provider there, use whichever one you want. Then you'll do your /init to generate your agents.md. Then as you develop, you'll come up with different commands that you think you want to add, either for your global projects or for that individual repo. And then you'll also add skills. Remembering the difference, commands are like buttons, repeatable prompts, and skills are more like playbooks for the agent to follow. If you wanted to go deeper on any of these topics, there's this really awesome article that I read about how coding agents actually work, and inside of OpenCode, even this architecture breakdown is really nice. It gives you a really deep dive into how everything is working. If you want to check this out, what you can do is click the link in the description, join our Skool community, and there will be a post that has this video on it, and I'm going to link this article as well. If you want to check that out, that'll be there. That'll be it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe for more content like this. If you'd like to check out some of my other tech demos, you can check that out right over here.